Nathan had always thought of himself as cautious, especially after the last woman he dated turned his life into a slow-burning disaster. That breakup didn't end with shouting or shattered dishes. It ended in silence. A cold, empty kind of silence that lingered in every corner of his apartment for months. No texts, no flings, no Tinder. Just long evenings spent working, watching documentaries, and occasionally wondering if he'd ever let someone in again. That changed when he matched with a woman named Lana. There was something disarmingly simple about her. Her photos weren't filtered or overly styled. One showed her in a bookstore, another at a park with a fluffy gray cat curled in her lap. She looked calm, maybe even a little sad, but in a relatable way. Her bio was short: introvert, designer. I like eye contact and quiet people. That last part stuck with him. Their conversations started slowly but comfortably. She never used emojis. She wrote in full sentences. She told Nathan she was a freelance interior designer, mostly working from home. He told her about his job as a remote graphic designer, how he loved cooking, and how his Friday nights usually involved pasta, wine, and a good audiobook. After about 4 days of chatting, he asked if she wanted to meet. Instead of suggesting a coffee shop or bar, she surprised him. "Dinner at your place?" she said. Nathan hesitated. He never invited strangers over, not on a first date. But Lana had this way of making it sound safe. She even added, "Only if you're comfortable. If not, I get it." Against his usual instincts, he said yes. He spent the whole Saturday prepping. Cleaned the apartment twice. Vacuumed, scrubbed the stove, lit a sandalwood candle in the bathroom. He even swapped his harsh white light bulbs for warmer tones. He cooked penne alla vodka, his favorite, and slid garlic bread into the oven at 6 p.m. sharp. A bottle of red wine sat chilling in the fridge. The plates were pre-warmed. The mood was quiet, calm, intentional. At 6:30 exactly, the doorbell rang. Lana stood at the threshold in a brown wool coat, a small bottle of wine in one hand. She smiled faintly as if on cue. Up close, she looked a little older than her photos, maybe just tired. Her eyes held a softness, but something in her expression seemed stretched thin. Nathan welcomed her in. "Smells amazing in here," she said quietly. He thanked her, took her coat, and noticed the scarf she wore was hand-knitted, thick stitches, likely handmade. She followed him into the kitchen, took a seat at the table, and folded her hands. As he stirred the pasta one last time, Nathan tried to keep things light. "So, Lana, big fan of Italian food?" "It's fine," she replied. Not the most enthusiastic start, but maybe she was shy. He plated the food, poured 2 glasses of wine, and brought them over. When he offered her a glass, she simply shook her head. "I don't drink." Her voice was flat, not rude, just still. Nathan gave a small nod. "No problem. Water okay?" "Water's perfect." He fetched her a glass and joined her at the table. The garlic bread was golden, the pasta creamy and rich. He complimented her scarf. She nodded. He cracked a joke about nearly burning the bread because his oven timer was on mute. She gave a tight-lipped smile but didn't laugh. Maybe she's just nervous, he thought. First dates can be weird. Halfway through the meal, Lana paused mid-bite and looked at him. "You know what would be nice?" she asked. He looked up. "What's that?" "A candle. Something with firelight. It makes things feel safer." Nathan blinked. "Safer?" She didn't elaborate, just repeated, "It feels better with firelight." He tried not to overanalyze it. "Sure, I've got one in the closet." He got up and went to the hallway pantry. The candle was right where he left it. As he picked it up, a strange stillness settled over the apartment. The kind of silence that made your ears feel full. When he returned, he noticed something odd. Lana was sitting exactly as before, hands on her lap, spine straight, but her chair had shifted slightly. Just barely, like it had been moved and then quickly put back. He scanned the kitchen. Nothing seemed out of place. Still, a strange chill ran down his neck. "Everything okay?" he asked. "I just rinsed my hands," she said. He glanced toward the sink. It was dry. He hadn't heard the tap. Still, he didn't push it. He lit the candle, placed it in the center of the table, and sat down. "To quiet things," he said, raising his glass. She lifted her water, clinked it softly, and stared at him. As he brought the wine to his lips, he noticed something. Floating. Tiny white grains. Swirling, dissolving. His heart slowed. He swirled the glass again, casually, like he was just admiring the color. Then he smiled and faked a sip, let the rim touch his lips but didn't drink. Lana's eyes followed the motion. When he lowered the glass, she looked down at her plate. Conversation continued, but his thoughts raced. What was that? Was it already there? No, he had poured the wine himself. He checked again when she looked away. The particles were still there, slowly vanishing into the deep red liquid. She didn't ask why he wasn't drinking. Instead, she excused herself to the bathroom. "Second door on the left," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. As soon as she disappeared down the hallway, Nathan stood. He grabbed the wine glass, brought it to the light above the stove, and squinted. The white substance was almost gone now. Fully dissolved. No smell. No taste when he touched a drop to his tongue. Just bitterness. He dumped the wine, scrubbed the glass, and rinsed it twice. Then he waited. Minutes passed. When she returned, she had her coat on. "I should go," she said. "My dog's not well." He nodded. "Okay." She walked to the door slowly, like she was unsure about leaving. When he opened it for her, she paused for a second, then stepped outside without saying goodbye. He locked the door behind her. The apartment fell silent again. Nathan stood in the kitchen for a long while, staring at the sink. The candle still flickered on the table. He cleaned everything, double-checked the locks, then went to bed. But sleep didn't come. The wine. The candle. The way she moved her chair. Something was wrong. And deep down, Nathan already knew. Tonight wasn't over yet. Nathan lay on his back, eyes fixed on the slow rotation of the ceiling fan. The warmth of the evening, the candles, the smell of pasta, the idea of company, had all vanished, leaving only a hollow unease. He checked the locks twice, made sure all the windows were shut. Yet the feeling in his chest wouldn't settle. It wasn't just nerves. It was that gut-deep warning that something wasn't right. His mind circled back to the glass. That faint swirl of white powder dissolving in his wine. The way Lana had watched him so closely. The unusual request for a candle. The fake excuse about rinsing her hands. And now, the silence in her goodbye. No thanks, no smile. Just a cold, calculated exit. Nathan stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe slowly. Maybe it was paranoia. Maybe she was just awkward. But if he'd actually taken a sip of that wine. He sat up, rubbing his face. The streetlights outside painted faint gold patterns across the walls. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Even the hum of the refrigerator felt loud in the silence. Eventually, after what felt like hours of tossing and turning, sleep finally began to wrap around him. His breathing slowed. His thoughts blurred. And then, a sharp noise cut through the stillness like a blade. Ceramic on tile. Something had fallen in the kitchen. Nathan's eyes flew open. He froze, every muscle tensed. Had something tipped? The drying rack? A cup too close to the edge? He slid out of bed silently, grabbing his phone from the nightstand. No texts, no alerts. Barefoot, he crept down the hallway toward the kitchen, heart thudding against his ribs. The lights were off, but the faint amber glow from outside lit the space just enough. He stepped inside cautiously. No broken cup, no fallen dishes, nothing out of place. But something was wrong. He felt it in the air, like static. A pressure, an energy that made the hairs on his neck stand. Then creak. His bedroom door opened behind him. Nathan turned around in slow motion, his stomach dropping. Footsteps. So, deliberate, on the hallway floorboards. He backed into the shadows of the living room, his breath caught in his throat. He reached into the closet and grabbed the heaviest object he could find, a steel flashlight. It wasn't much, but it was solid. His hands tightened around it like a lifeline. The footsteps stopped. He peeked past the doorframe, and that's when he saw her, Lana, standing still in the middle of the room. Just standing, not hunched, not hiding, no fear. Her coat was buttoned to the collar, scarf neatly looped, her hands at her sides. She wasn't carrying a purse. She was carrying something else. A long, gleaming kitchen knife. His kitchen knife. Nathan's heart stuttered. "Lana?" he whispered. She didn't move. Her eyes were locked on him, expression unreadable. Not angry, not sad, just empty. He held up one hand gently. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding." No answer. "You can go. Right now. And I won't call the police." Still, nothing. For a second, Nathan thought she might lunge. His grip tightened on the flashlight. The silence stretched so long it was unbearable. Then she did something he didn't expect. She turned, walked to the kitchen counter, and placed the knife down. Just like that. Then she walked to the back door, opened it, and left. Nathan stood frozen for nearly a full minute. His ears buzzed. His mouth was dry. Then, with shaking hands, he ran to the door, slammed it shut, and locked every bolt he had. His fingers fumbled as he grabbed his phone and dialed 911. When the dispatcher answered, he could barely speak at first. There's a woman. She broke in, she had a knife. She was in my apartment." "Sir, are you safe right now?" the woman on the line asked calmly. "I think so," he whispered. "I locked the doors." She left. "Is she someone you know?" "We had one date. Tonight. Her name's Lana. I don't know her last name. I think she tried to drug me." The dispatcher told him to stay where he was. Keep the doors locked. Officers would be there in minutes. Nathan sat in the corner of his living room, flashlight still in hand. He stared at the knife on the counter. His thoughts were spiraling now. Why had she come back? What would have happened if he had fallen asleep sooner? What if he hadn't noticed the wine? When the police arrived, 3 officers entered with flashlights drawn. One of them took his statement. Another examined the knife. "Looks like she wore gloves," one officer muttered, checking for prints. "Barely any residue. Smart." Nathan handed them the wine glass, which he hadn't thrown away. They sealed it in an evidence bag. "Can you give us a better description of her?" another officer asked. He tried. He remembered the coat, the scarf, her expression. But the truth was, Lana's face was already starting to blur in his mind, as if his brain was trying to erase it. "She was just calm," he said. Like none of this was strange to her. One of the officers nodded grimly. "We'll put out a local alert. You should consider a security system, at least temporarily." Before they left, they asked if he wanted to file a protective order. Nathan nodded without hesitation. Later that night, long after they were gone, he sat alone in the kitchen. The wine glass was gone. The knife had been bagged, but the dread remained. He didn't sleep. He just sat there, waiting for morning. By the time sunlight touched the tops of the buildings outside, Nathan was still sitting upright in the same chair, his back stiff and his fingers still slightly trembling. The night hadn't ended with screams or sirens, but it had left a deep, unspoken wound in the air of his apartment. It was like something invisible had passed through, something dark and patient. And though it was gone, it had left behind a hollow echo. The streets outside began to wake. Joggers ran past with earbuds in, a delivery truck rumbled down the block, and neighbors opened their blinds to let the day in. But Nathan couldn't bring himself to do the same. He sat motionless in the kitchen as the light crept in across the floor. The knife was gone, bagged by police hours ago, but in his mind, it was still there, on the counter, waiting. He tried to drink coffee, but it tasted sour. Every time he blinked, he saw her again, her eyes blank, her hand wrapped calmly around the blade, standing there like it was the most natural thing in the world. Around noon, his phone rang. The caller ID read, "Local police department." Nathan's stomach twisted. "We've got an update," the officer said. "We ran the prints from the knife. The name she gave you, Lana, was fake. Her real name is Erica Dorman." Nathan repeated it softly. Erica Dorman. It meant nothing to him, but the way the officer said it, it sounded like a name with a past. "She's been on record before," the officer continued. "About 3 years ago, she was arrested in a similar case. A man she met online said she started stalking him after a single date. She was caught outside his apartment, carrying zip ties, gloves, and pepper spray. He got a restraining order. Charges were dropped." Nathan's hand clenched the edge of the table. "There were other complaints too," the officer added. "Harassment. Showing up at people's homes. But nothing that stuck. Until now." Nathan closed his eyes. He didn't want to hear more. But he needed to. "Based on your statement and what we found, she's being charged with unlawful entry and attempted assault. If you want to press charges formally, we'll assist you with a victim advocate." After the call ended, he sat in silence for what felt like an hour. How close had he come? What if he hadn't noticed the wine? What if he had fallen asleep? What if she hadn't set the knife down? For days, Nathan didn't open the blinds. He installed new locks on every door and window, motion sensors, a smart doorbell. He even bought a camera system and wired it himself. His living room, once a warm, cozy space with bookshelves and throw pillows, now looked like a temporary shelter, functional, sterile, alert. Friends messaged him asking if he was okay. He said he was. But he didn't know how to explain it. How do you tell someone that a woman you invited for dinner stood in your kitchen with a knife at 2:30 in the morning? He avoided dating apps. Avoided dinner invites. Avoided talking about the word Lana at all. He couldn't hear it without feeling that same crawling sensation down his spine. Then, 2 weeks later, another call came. It wasn't from the police. It was from her. A voicemail. He didn't answer in time, and when he checked it, his breath stopped. "Hey, Nathan," the voice began, barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to say sorry. I wasn't well that night. I'm getting help now. I'm sorry for scaring you. I really am." She didn't say her real name. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just vanished into the silence again. He forwarded the voicemail to the investigating officer. They said they'd document it but couldn't act further unless she contacted him again. The restraining order was in process. Still, her voice lingered, soft, trembling, disturbingly normal. Nathan spent nights lying awake thinking about her. Was she mentally ill? Was it a cry for help? Or was it a pattern, an act, something she had rehearsed many times before? He would never know. What haunted him most was how calm she had been. There was no rage, no screaming, just silence, and the deliberate, emotionless way she had set the knife down, as if she hadn't come to kill, but to prove that she could. Eventually, Nathan began trying to return to life. He took time off work, spent long afternoons walking empty side streets, going nowhere in particular. He stopped at a bookstore one day, the same one he used to visit before everything. The clerk asked if he needed help finding anything. He stared at the shelves for a while, then said, "Do you have anything about surviving people?" The clerk tilted her head. "Surviving people?" Nathan gave a small, sad smile. "Yeah. People who smile and lie. People who leave marks you can't see." She didn't press, just walked him to a small corner shelf with memoirs and trauma recovery guides. He bought 3 books and read them all in 1 week. He didn't date again for a long time. The wine glasses stayed stored away. The dining table remained bare. He removed the candle from the kitchen completely. Little things that had once been ordinary now felt like open doors. And every night, before bed, he walked from room to room, checking locks, securing windows, making sure the camera lights were blinking. Twice. Months passed. Spring returned to the city. Trees bloomed. Parks filled with laughter. People kissed on benches. But Nathan still lived with the weight of that night. Still lived with the image of her in the dark. And no matter how much time went by, one thought continued to whisper in the back of his mind. A single, chilling truth that would never quite go away. What if I hadn't seen the wine?